It is now more than 2 years since the crafty SARS-CoV-2 virus has been tormenting the world. Currently, the Omicron strain is giving India sleepless nights. But the fight is on. There are new diagnostics, there are new vaccines, and there is the possibility of having a drug to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. India will certainly thwart this virus. I have said many times, Corona हारेगा, देश जीतेगा. This cat and mouse game between a tiny virus and Homo sapiens has been going on for more than 2 years. Indian scientists are working hard to try and find solutions to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. Today we have with us Dr. Rajesh Gokhale. Namaskar, sir. Dr. Gokhale is a chemical biologist and the Secretary of the Department of Biotechnology, one of India's most important departments for fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Gokhale, we are standing in the National Institute of Immunology. In your opinion, at what stage are we in this fight against the COVID-19 pandemic?
I think it's a very interesting question because infectious diseases are always difficult to predict. But the way things are going on and the way things are moving on is, I would say, India has done remarkably well actually in controlling the entire system, actually taking care, looking at examining how the world has gone through, because they spread in different ways. And I think we are actually kind of doing very well, and maybe in the late phase of the whole pandemic that we are talking about actually. The viruses have been evolving and it's been giving us a different perspective to do. But as we always say in science, never say no to anything actually. Always be on the lookout, always be on the way to predict and be able to tackle them, figure out a way to tackle them actually. So that's...
Have Indian scientists been ahead of the virus, or is the virus still outwitting Indian scientists?
I think we have tracked it really well. I mean, I think in Indian perspective, for example, if we really look at this with so little understanding and so very different nature of things, what has come out with actually in such a short period of time to be able to manage and develop resources, both scientifically as well as managerially, I think we have done really fantastically well actually. I think we are right there. We're right there with it. You can say, as you rightly pointed out, it's a cat-mouse game actually, and we're right there in that cat-mouse game. We're not losing the battle. Now we actually, saying that we are, but I think we're right there.
Now, currently, Omicron strain is giving us trouble. Why do these strains evolve?
Well, it's very interesting. Viral evolution is a very, very interesting perspective. These viruses mutate very rapidly in human body because of the way their biological mechanisms, the way work, and it's a little bit more interesting science to understand. But several viruses, for example, HIV, rhinovirus, and all these other viruses has been mutating actually. These viruses are evolving in a very different manner. That's what, as of we understand, than what most of the earlier viruses have evolved actually. And for example, H1N1 pandemic that we have, it evolved in a what you would call in a cascading way, and they continued to evolution. Right now, it seems very interesting to follow the trajectory of evolution of this new coronavirus. And I think it's a very, very fascinating lesson on understanding how infectious diseases can in fact progress.
Or is it that we are focusing too much on this virus? Then we are trying to, every mutation we are trying to follow, which is why we see so much deeper understanding, or all viruses evolve like this?
I think it's clearly true that science and technology is progressing very, very rapidly, and as well, and we've been able to bring all these important aspects of it into our clinical, what you call medical systems, which is fabulous and fantastic. Actually, it's taught us, and obviously we are learning more and more. So because it has such a wide impact, actually, we have to track it, because it's very important to follow everything that's going around. I mean, this is never unprecedented in the history what we are seeing this in, actually. So clearly we need to look at every aspect of it, and we need to be very careful, and that's what India has done very successfully.
How do you track variants?
So one of the best methodology to do it is genome sequencing, actually, and the genome sequencing is a method where we go and identify every single nucleotide that a virus consists of, and be able to put them together in a linear sequence that what dictates its variance formation, actually. And genome sequencing technology is being used in all different laboratories across India and various places to be able to track the viruses, to be able to understand what are the new variants are coming, to be able to figure out, are the clusters have similar kind of viruses, or are these differences actually being identified. And therefore, we've been able to do a very successful monitoring of this of virus systems in India.
Is it long and tedious to do a genome sequencing effort?
So it is certainly scientifically challenging and technology challenging, but we have in several of our laboratories, we have in fact standardized the methods and are able to use all the pipeline which is required which a good computing power also required to be able to carry out. It's been done. But the real challenge is actually to pool samples together and then be able to simultaneously do that, because the way the chips are designed is that you have to put large number of samples at the same point of time. So you need to do good collection of samples, you need to have good clinical values of it, and then you need to be able to carry forward these biochemical and experiments in the lab to be able to perform these activities.
Do we have enough trained manpower to do this whole genome sequencing of variants?
Well, I think India has invested very well in this part of work over the years, and I think we have large number of institutions and now several private players as well who are doing this right now. But that is one good thing that India has really done over the years, is have invested into science, invested into technologies, and actually that's what it has actually helped us out to really come up with this data set.
Now, even as you sequence, and we are with the Omicron strain, will Omicron strain be the last, or will we see more strains emerging? Because this is it evolution at play?
I mean, this is what evolution is all about. But would it be more? I would think Omicron is Omicron. However, it's not that Omicron is going to be the last variant to come. Even every day, viruses keep on mutating. Even in our body, they mutate while we are actually doing this. So it's very hard to say, what is first and what is last in sequence, because it's a circular world actually. And so you should always, not worry about what is the last or the first. Worry about if there is a variant, is it a variant of concern? And if it's a concern, how do we tackle it actually? That's the key.
Mm-hmm. Now, within this Omicron variant, is this something which Indian scientists have been able to pin down well and understand this variant?
Yeah, it's a very recent, right? I mean, it's less than a month that we have identified Omicron, and to be able to think that we understand everything is rather oversimplification of scientific understanding of what we do really. But yes, I mean, we have been able to isolate them, we've been able to study the neutralizing capacity of these antibodies that we have been generated. So we've been actually doing a very, very wonderful job, and the timelines are so squeezed. It's unprecedented in scientific community to be able to carry out activities at that pace. So we've actually done very well as a whole country together. The people have come together, the teams have come together. There are backing from government in all sorts of ways to be able to help us out to do this. I think we've done a very commendable job.
Through this phase which we are going through Omicron, many people want that every RT-PCR sample be sequenced and confirmed as Omicron and not Delta or Alpha. Is it possible, or are we doing some smart, intelligent sample testing?
Yeah, I think one is it's not humanly feasible to genome sequence so many of them, and it's not even required. What you really need to do is learn to do right kind of sampling, right kind of strategic decision making, the right way in which the samples are collected, so that you need to get all the information that is required. Because you do RT-PCR to identify whether you have a positive or negative to coronavirus. You do genome sequence to identify which are the variants that are there. So these are two independent methods and two independent technologies required for do independent activities, and that's what we are trying to do this actually.
So it is a smart sampling system.
It's a very smart sampling system that we are trying to do actually, where there are critical episodes, then you try and identify what are the kind of differences that do we observe, and can we actually identify and move ahead from there.
Because they say the Omicron is moving west to east, and that is the way in which the strain has been moving. Is that correct?
Well, it's really not, the strain is not moving, it's really the transmission is going around that way.
It's the humans who are moving.
It's the humans who are moving, you're absolutely right. It's not the virus actually. But now the Omicron has moved very, very rapidly actually. And I think it's a very different kind of version than what we saw earlier from other variants in my opinion. But we are all very, very careful. We have learned this. So I think even every individual is as smart as I think that as virus has made us look like. So we have actually become very stronger as a community as well.
But why is Omicron so much more transmissible? What gives it that strength to be more transmissible than? You're a smart scientist, you should know, boss.
Well, I think if you know everything, then you're not a scientist. That's the first way of being a scientist, is that make sure that you understand that there are limitations in the way the nature evolves. The nature and the life is extremely powerful and very complex actually. And the way we are able to, and therefore the viruses are also equally complex. So we do understand what is happening. We do understand the transmission can occur from us to animals, to other species. They can come back to us and therefrom. So reservoirs are large. And so to sample all of them and to be able to say, I understand everything of everything going around me is a little bit of an ambitious overstatement actually.
Dr. Gokhale, India has not only made its own vaccine, manufactured its vaccine, also given more than 150 crore doses. Do you think that has helped in containing the pandemic a little?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's undeniably true that the vaccination has really made an impact in human lives actually, and it's never been so critical and important, demonstrated now, that the vaccination protects human being from any any long-term infections, any long-term disease perspective from a point of view. In fact, in our country, we can be proud to say that every aspect of technology that is required to bring in from a vaccine point of view have been enabled in the country.
But during the Omicron phase, many people who are double vaccinated have also been getting an infection. Why is that?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult question to address, but the issue is really that you are protected from severity of a disease. The vaccination's major job is to improve the memory cells in your body to be able to fight the virus. The infection occurs through a route, many of which could have been taken care of if we have been very cautious with our ways of moving and working together actually. But there will always be a chance that you will have a breakthrough infections actually, and so that's a very different model of looking at it. So main vaccination roles is to look at the severity of the disease and not really. So I think from that point of view, we are actually doing very, very well.
Now, even though we've had the Indian vaccines for just about a year, can we still call them first generation, because you already have another set of different vaccines which are in the offing? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I think I mean, science is always never say, as I said, you will always keep coming up with newer ideas and you're always looking at, and we have to come up with new forms of vaccines continuously in our lives. And I think that's the strategy that is very important to look at. In fact, Department of Biotechnology is trying to look at how to position ourselves, how to improve the ecosystem, how to have better and better vaccines, because you can always do better than what you have in the past. So you can, as I said, science is always, one step ahead. So I think yes, we are looking into that, and we are looking into variety of ways that we can obviously do better. And there are second generation, there are third generation vaccines, and obviously you will get these vaccines which will come. So
Which are the platforms which are in the pipeline just now, ready to be deployed?
So we already have several. We have protein subunit vaccines. We have already mRNA vaccine that are coming out. We have these adenoviral vector-based vaccines. We have the viruses, inactivated viruses are vaccines. So they're all coming together, and they all have value, and they all have real benefit to humans actually. So and several other will come. For example, flu vaccine in US and other places, if you look at, they're multivalent vaccines actually, because the strain mutates very rapidly, and so you come up with variety of different ways of looking at it. So this is the challenge that we have as we move ahead, as we understand more about coronavirus. I mean, that's why we call it new coronavirus, because there are older coronaviruses for several years altogether. So the new coronavirus teaching new lessons, and of course we will come up with new science all the while.
And do we need to tweak our, as I said, the first generation vaccines to be more effective, or the newer generation which will come will overtake that?
I think I think there are it's all very difficult. There are variety of challenges and issues the way you look at efficacy of vaccines actually to look at, and I think it's a balanced approach that eventually will be a winner. And so many of these will also work. Many of the new ones will work. And then we will figure out how best to get value to humans. So I think it's not going to be one or the, nothing like phasing out or phasing in of everything. It's a very balanced approach that, and I think the government is actually putting in a lot of efforts to be able to do this properly. Science-driven decisions are being taken, which is what the bottom line of all of this is. How the science, what does it tells us, and can we now take a decision and be able to carry forward.
How long does the immunity last? Currently, with the first generation vaccines, it is said it's about 9 months. Is that the current understanding, or could it go longer? What is because the mRNA vaccines, which is Pfizer, Moderna, etc., are in a different league, and maybe they are failing more.
Well, I would think the immunity is a memory response of human body. I mean, the immunity that we talk about is neutralizing antibodies are very different, and the immunity, the host immunity, which is cellular immunity, can actually last for several time and several years as well altogether. So it's not that it's just very simplistically you can say, oh, this is disappearing and all. I think it's a wrong perception little bit to my opinion actually. They keep waning. And a waning is a different method altogether than saying, not there. So it's a balance that we need to talk about actually.
See, most of the world is talking about booster doses. India has opted to call it precautionary dose. Is that the way forward, that we will have to have a vaccine almost annually against the SARS-CoV-2 virus?
So it's the science that dictates what we will do in future, and that's been our strategy, and I think that's the bottom line of really how it will work as future. So I think let's not start predicting, make predictions and make unnecessary extrapolations of things. So we have done well at every stage, and reasonably confident that we will be actually come out winner in a very quick time actually.
Vaccines is one bit. What about new drugs? Things which can actually control the virus replication itself. Where are we on that?
Yes, I mean, antivirals are obviously very important, because you don't want to keep giving preventive vaccines all the while, because you need to then only treat small number of patients who are affected by it. So clearly antivirals is another one program that is ongoing in variety of scientific laboratories and various science ministries, and hopefully we will get out something. Even though in the antivirals has been a challenge for several years because of the rapidity with which virals replicate, they infect, and they very rapidly. But I think we're getting there. There are already few molecules in the market as well, and I think we probably will have few more coming on in very soon time.
You've taken over as Secretary of the Department of Biotechnology fairly recently. Is there any change in vision or any tweak which is required for India's strategy as we move ahead towards a multi-trillion-dollar economy?
I think, in my opinion, the biggest challenge always has to combine our efforts actually. And biotechnology, by the name itself, you can see that there is a biology, there is a technology, there is a chemical evolution, there is thing. And it's really the focus should be on how to assimilate our critical strengths and make the best out of it of what we have. And I think as I again reinforce the whole issue is actually is that we've done commendably well in variety of ways in this country. And there are obviously, we can do even better if one can handhold each other in a perfect, as we look into the future path of those science.
Even as we continue with battling the Omicron surge, when do you think the surge will end and where do you think the pandemic is going?
Well, I think it's as I said, it's teaching us all the lessons all the while. All clinical ways of treating people or our ways of doing science, everything is changing. But I think it's always for the good, and that's what is the best part of it. Every aspect of coronavirus actually have been a very interesting learning exercise, right from the people who are actually treating them or people who are looking at how to treat diseases or how to come up with new ideas and new ways. And I think this is probably should take us in a positive way and probably will impact other aspect of disease curing as well as we move into the future. That's where I think is a wonderful, we probably will have a much better insights and much better ways to do things.
Dr. Gokhale, the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic is still ongoing. But have we learnt lessons and will we be able to handle future pandemics better or in a more robust manner?
Yeah, I mean, surely. I mean, obviously, as I was saying that, it's not only the pandemics, but also other disease ways also will change the way. I think many of these things are catalyzing our new way of life. The way we interact now, the way we carry out various activities. Similarly, the medical as well as the scientific perspective of how we do is going to be dramatically different. And of course, our response time will become better and better actually, faster and faster. As I said, with Omicron, you can see less than a month time, you can able to track it out, you can follow them, you can follow in which communities, which states, how is it growing, when is it coming, what the numbers are growing. So this is just astounding for the way we've been, doing this actually. I think it's obviously we are much better prepared for any eventualities that happen.
Thanks a lot for speaking to us, Dr. Gokhale, and explaining to us the nuances of trying to fight this crafty virus and how biotechnological solutions from India is helping control the pandemic and also helping us prepare for future pandemic. Namaskar and thanks a lot, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
The ongoing battle between the crafty virus and the intelligent human beings continues. But within that, the Indian biotechnology community, the industry, and the medical community has been working hard to keep India safe. The ecosystem which has been developed around trying to fight the COVID-19 pandemic will keep India strong for a long time. India is already the pharmacy of the world. It can become a global leader in biotechnology. But trust me, the COVID-19 pandemic may end soon. Like I have said many times, Corona harega, Desh jeetega. Keep watching India Science.